Let me set the scene. Open on a horse stall. Dust in the air. Sound of an angle grinder humming in the background. I've worked with a lot of helpers over the years, brothers mostly. And I'll tell you, half the time I'm bringing in help to help the clients, because they're more cost effective because they can do the menial tasks for less. But babysitting isn't cheap by the hour, and I end up spending more time watching them, supervising them, and not doing my skilled labor at the hourly rate that I'm charging. So I didn't do this too often, but on this one occasion, this one day, I handed my brother Billy a tiny little 4-inch Makita grinder, an angle grinder, a baby grinder, low power, wire wheel. I'd run 6-inch grinders with real torque for my whole career. I genuinely did not think this little toy could cause any trouble. Billy still has nightmares. So let me set the scene. This is a character piece as much as a tool safety video. So I'm working on this beautiful property with a very nice couple. Love them. They've got horse stalls, no horses, but they've got horse stalls and they're trying to upkeep the property for resale, I guess. So I'm cutting and replacing some of the square tubing, the stock that's on the bottom around the base where the horses have, done their duty and caused corrosion. And I'm cutting and I'm welding in new pieces. But there's some of the work that is just not that bad, as some of the metal is just a little bit rusted, some loose pieces and stuff. So I've got my older brother, Billy. It just made financial sense for me to bring him in, charge a lower hourly rate, and let him assist me. So here comes Billy. He's 4 years older. He's got a different father. He lived life fast and furious. Mom used to tell the story. When you were a baby, Billy would push you down on one side of the yard, make you cry, while he ran to the other side of the yard and say, "What's the matter, Mikey? Did you fall down?" That was our relationship. So Billy had recently gone through his own kind of evolution, like the Grinch whose heart grew just enough that he couldn't keep selling used cars the way management wanted him to. He didn't have that heart for it anymore. So he was in a different chapter in his life, a softer one. But he was not, under any circumstances, a physical laborer. That's not what he'd done. I mean, yes, early in life, but not for many, many years. So he wasn't in great shape. And he wasn't used to hard work. In fact, he took every opportunity he could to sit on his butt. And on this particular job, he found a way to lie down. It looked absurd, but he wasn't making much per hour, and the client was saving money, maybe. And so I let Billy be Billy. So the task this time was cleaning up that lightly rusted metal on the stall bases. The tool assignment was a stiff wire wheel on a 4-inch Makita grinder, an angle grinder. I geared him up properly. He had long sleeve shirt on, leather gloves, eye protection, and earplugs. I'd run far bigger, meaner tools my whole career. This little green Makita barely registered as a hazard in my mind. But things were going fine. Billy was making okay progress. I stepped around the corner to work in the next stall doing my, grinding and welding. Then the commotion happened. Both Billy and the tool were making loud, chaotic noises. Just didn't sound right. So I jumped up and I came around the corner and I walked into a scene that you just can't fully explain with words. Somehow Billy, my brother Billy, my older brother, I won't say bigger, my older brother Billy, had that grinder with the switch locked on, no guard, no, just that wire wheel spinning, and it had fallen to the ground near him. The grinder, loose on the dirt, with a spinning wheel, behaves like a wild fire hose that's been possessed, except Billy was lying on the ground with all his bits and pieces exposed. And this tool, this possessed little green meanie, had landed on the side where its wheel kept spinning in a direction that dug into the dirt and kept launching it. I mean, launching it toward him over and over, like it had a grudge. Billy's reflexes kicked in. Luckily, he was battling it away, batting and batting and batting, and he was kicking at it and kicking at it from the ground, kicking at it. And I could just, I know this all happened in just a few seconds, but I'm looking at it going, wow, in just amazement. I'm paused for probably a second before I just reached down and I unplugged it. I looked at Billy. He looked at me. He was completely unharmed, and I laughed until it hurt. So here's the problem. Here's the takeaway. Here's what you should learn from this. As I did say, it could be a warning video as well. When you have a grinder, the cheaper ones that you use, the light gauge ones, they just have a side switch that you push up and it has a little L to it and it locks into place. For, when you're continuously working, you don't want to hold a switch and have your thumb wear out. So it locks on. But that in combination with the fact that it didn't have a guard, because the guards, they cover half of the tool. They sit like this. There's like a C, and the rest of the blade is out here. The guard's always in the way for whatever angle you're working at. And if you're down there on the ground and you're grinding away on this metal, the guard's always in the way. So there was no guard, and the switch locks off. That's a dangerous combination. And without the guard, there's no deflection protection. And the benefit to having the guard, besides the fact that it keeps some of the debris from flying right back in your face, the benefit is that should you drop it, it doesn't allow the the wheel to just dig into the dirt and keep chasing you. So that's one of the benefits. So when I tooled him back up and I put him back on the horse, I gave him the grinder I was using, the one with a paddle switch, the one where once you let it go, it shuts off. And I put the guard on there for him. Yes, it slowed him down even slower than he was already going, but it was safer. And with the guard in place and the paddle switch, he continued to work through his fear. But I'm sure he still has nightmares to this day. Now, here's the other thing. Because I was familiar with the tools and had spent my adult life working with him, I just assumed that my brother Billy would be okay. It would be low risk. But you put an inexperienced operator plus the lock-on switch with no guard, and it equals a hazard regardless of the motor size. The size in this case does not matter. The tool being small did not make it safe. It just made it easier to underestimate. When you have your helper, your brother working alone, it's not good to leave him alone, even if you're in the next stall. But luckily I was real close by and quick thinking, because this could have been much worse. I could have been taking my brother to the ER. So what's the solution? Well, always use a paddle switch, especially with a novice, with a dead man switch that shuts off when you let go of it. Always have a guard. And that extra handle, that little T-handle that screws into the side, I've never used them because it's always in the way. You have to take it out of this side, put it in that side. But in the case where you've got a novice and he's doing stuff in a tight space, yeah, put the handle on there. So he's got two hands on the device, and he's got the guard, and he's prepared, as well as the paddle switch, the dead man switch. Match the tool to the operator, not the job. Yes, I didn't give him a 6-inch grinder because that would have been too much strength required to hold on to that grinder, because when it takes a bite, it takes a bite. You've got to be holding that thing so tight, not just for fear of your life, but because you're not going to stay on task if that grinder's jumping all over the place. So the right tool for the job, the right tool for the operator. So what's my takeaway? My brother Billy, he did everything I told him to do. He wore the right gear. He was right on task. The mistake was mine. I handed him a setup that wasn't right for him and assumed that because the tool was small, the risk was small. But that's not how it works. The tool doesn't care how experienced you are. It doesn't care that it's only a 4-inch tool. A spinning wire wheel on a locked grinder with no guard will go wherever physics takes it. That day, physics headed in for my brother. The paddle switch, the guard on, the side handle, and you're supervising someone, set them up for success before you walk around the corner. Yes, Billy continued to work with me after that, but he preferred to do the painting work after that, not so much more of the grinding. So if you're in the Granbury or Glen Rose or even Pecan Plantation and you need someone that is cost effective and charges by the hour for the skill level that he's working and isn't afraid to use hired help, then give me a call. You can find my number on my website, mrfixer.com. That's MRPHIXER.com. And I'll see you on the next one.